World Lethwei Championship King of Nine Limbs is coming our way 2nd of August. It promises to be arguably the biggest night in the history of Lethwei. We love superlatives when it comes to combat sports. But tonight with me in the studio is fight analyst Major Overall. Major, do you feel it's a little bit justified when it comes to this one? This one is massive. This fight card is crazy.
This is going to be a great card. We've got a crossover today, more than just Lethwei. It's bigger than Lethwei. We have Seth Baczynski, who's an Ultimate Fighter alum, taking on Dave Leduc, who's the king of Lethwei. I think it's safe to say that this fight transcends the genre of Lethwei and is going to be a global affair.
It's a sport that attracts millions in Myanmar, and this will attract millions. But now, because of WLC, they seem to have elevated the sport. They've got it on global networks. They've brought in the king of Lethwei. They've brought in a UFC alumni. But you've been at most of their events. You've worked most of their events. What's impressed you the most about what they've done, and how have they packaged it to appeal to a global audience?
I think they've done a good job of making it appeal to a global audience. One of the biggest things is that they've mainstreamed the sport so that it's accessible from around the world. Another thing that they've done is they've added the scoring, which makes it a little bit more understandable for the average person to watch. Yeah.
So in Seth Baczynski, we see a guy in the UFC, and UFC fans will remember him beating people like Matt Brown, who many would see as a legend. He is a big guy as well. Dave Leduc's a big guy, 6'3", but Leduc is 27 years old and in his prime. Who do you favour in this matchup? It's a difficult one to call in a lot of ways.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of times when you look into these type of questions, you find yourself with more questions, because you're going to ask yourself, how well has Seth adapted to the rule set of Lethwei? He's a veteran of over 38 MMA fights, and he's trained that for a long time. Is he going to be able to pick up the headbutts? Is he going to be able to deal with the strikes to the back of the head, et cetera, et cetera? But you have to ask yourself the same thing about Dave. Like, how well is Dave going to do against a guy that big? In MMA, a 77-kilo fighter is really walking around probably 90 kilos in the cage. I don't think Dave's ever faced anybody that size. So we've created a lot more questions for ourselves by doing this matchup.
Well, it's kind of a brave new world in a lot of respects, mainly because what we've seen from WLC is them matching up Burmese fighters who've grown up with the sport of Lethwei against foreign fighters. Here we have an American up against a Canadian who's kind of an adopted son of Myanmar. Then in the co-main event, we have a beast in Artur Sladiak from Poland up against Sasha Moisa from Ukraine, and that could arguably be fight of the night as well.
Oh, that's a paradox, is what that is. What you have in Artur is an immovable object, and what you have in Sasha is an unstoppable force, right? And what happens when those two meet? I mean, you look at the pace and the aggression out of Artur. It's insane. But you look at Sasha, he's one hit, one kill, man. He has the Ukrainian dim mak in his elbows. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it ringside. It was amazing. Yeah, looking forward to that match as well.
So somebody tuning into WLC for the first time, if you were to sum up why, if this is their first event, why do they need to check it out?
Well, first of all, you have the very best in the sport competing in this event. So this is a bigger card than any Lethwei show ever. We've got Dave Leduc, we've got Seth Baczynski, we've got Sasha, we've got Artur, we've got a women's fight on the card. We've so many new things, breaking so many barriers. This is really the show to watch.
Yeah, this is the first in the women's division, which is, again, as you say, breaking new barriers. WLC, we've got the French woman Souris Manfredi up against Aya Nut. We saw a ridiculous women's fight in the previous event in the Cayenne State.
Yeah.
And this is a big time for women in combat sports, it feels like. Is that, do you think, going to be successful for WLC in terms of making sure, because that's one thing they promised, they've made sure that there will be a women's fight on every single card moving forward?
Absolutely. I think that's a huge part of growing the sport, is to break those barriers and to, be an inspiration to everyone around the world, not just the men, but also to the women. Yeah.
So many talking points, so many storylines. Remember to check out Mike Yine as well, the local hero from the Cayenne State who headlined the previous event, and what a fight that was. He won a razor-sharp decision. There's so many fights to look out for. You can catch the action, of course, here on Fox Sports, and we'll be dishing out those highlights on www.foxsportsasia.com.